Hey there, how you doing today? So in this quick video, I wanted to talk to you about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've said it many, many times that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 15, 16 years ago changed my life. It was the first book that really introduced to me the concept that your house is not an asset. It really introduced the concept of rental properties. I still remember them talking about his condo in Hawaii and her condo in Oregon. And really the whole notion of positive cash flow. I don't know why, nobody in my family had ever talked about rental properties. It wasn't something, I have an MBA, a master's in business from a local university, and just never really thought about owning rental properties. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, again, changed my life and really put me on a new path. But as I sort of wanted to take that next step, I found that Rich Dad Poor Dad was missing something. It really was missing, how to get started. How do you learn a market? It was missing, how do you invest in a crazy market? How do you do this with a full-time job? I guess that was the thing that I was missing, right? I was 30 years old. I I had the hunger, I had the desire, but I didn't know what to do. And most importantly, right, the book talked about really about Robert Kiyosaki and his wife being entrepreneurs. And that wasn't me, right? I had a full-time job that took me all over the world, and I had no interest in quitting. I loved what I did and it paid well. And, I needed to understand how I could take the belief and concepts from Rich Dad Poor Dad and do something with it. So after I retired financially free at 45, I wrote this book, One Rental at a Time. My vision for this book was to be a complement to Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think you read Rich Dad Poor Dad first. If you like what Rich Dad Poor Dad says, you get this book, especially if you're a full-time employee and you really understand how to do it. I wrote about everything we did in our journey over 15 years. I wrote about what worked, what didn't work. I wrote about the crazy peak in 2007, 8. I wrote about how we saved ourselves because, again, a lot of people got hurt in the foreclosure crisis. We didn't. It's in this book. I wrote about our crazy first tenant in the first rental property, even after doing everything right, how it went so bad and how we decided to keep going. I wrote about how 1031 exchanges into apartment buildings really helped us. I wrote about what to do during the crash when no banks would lend to us. It's in this book. This book is really meant to be a full story of how a busy professional did it. How Rich Dad Poor Dad inspired them to get started. How they learned to market. I'd never been to the market that we invested in. A lot of you are talking about investing out of state, out of area. We did that, right? We didn't go out of state, but we did go out of area and chose a city we had never been to. How did we do it? How did it work out? Would we do it again? Did we look anywhere else? It's all in here. We wrote about the mistakes. We wrote about the ups and the downs. I really want this book to be a compliment to Rich Dad Poor Dad because this is someone's journey. We started at the bottom. And after 15 years of sacrifice, conservative finance, some luck, sure, the ability to 1031 exchange and move equity out of overpriced houses into apartments, how we used hard private money, how we found deals in the multiple listing service. We had no special access. We just looked at the market every day for 10 years. So if you want to have belief, if you want the next decade to lead to a better financial future, and you like Rich Dad Poor Dad, but you're missing something, this is the book for you. You need to go out and get this book. It's $14.99. It's self-published on Amazon. This is our story. You can come back to my YouTube channel, One Rental at a Time, for daily content, but you've got to read this book. One Rental at a Time takes the concepts of Rich Dad Poor Dad and gives you a full journey through the ups and the downs of the cycle. This book was written so that it would be a complement to Rich Dad Poor Dad for years to come. I think as of the recording, it's 99 reviews on Amazon. I think 95 of them are 5 stars. I think there's a 4, a 3, and a 1. Can't please everyone. But let me know what you think. Another thing that lots of people do for me is they take a picture, like take a selfie with the book and they send it to me. I go ahead and forward those around on Facebook, just saying another journey started. So if you get the book, take a selfie, send it to me. Again, I'm on Instagram, one rental at a time. There's a business page, one rental at a time. And you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. It's just Michael Zuber. All right. So again, this is written to be a compliment to Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'd love to know what you think. Have a great day. Take care.